Wes Wheeler is an attorney with Wheeler and Travis, PA. He earned his law degree with honors and undergraduate degrees in political science and music at Florida State University. He also earned a master's in urban planning at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. He has worked in his own firm and for municipalities, regional planning councils, state universities, the Southwest Florida Water Management District, special purpose districts, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. He is the current vice president of and solar coordinator for the League of Women Voters, Alachua County. Welcome, Wes.
Thank you so much, Mark. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
So before we get into the solar cooperative, I'm just kind of curious of what is the current state of solar in the United States. I looked into it many, many years ago, and for me it was a little cost prohibitive, but I know it's come a long way. So where are we today in terms of solar?
It's really exciting where we are today because prices have been dropping dramatically. Production is, the technology is coming along at such a rapid pace. Production is increasing worldwide. Just in the last 2 years, prices have dropped dramatically. Mm-hmm. Like you, I too looked at a system, about 2 years ago, and most of the quotes I got were between $16,000 and $19,000 for a 5 megawatt system. Right now, I joined the co-op that we have here that we're talking about today, and for a top-of-the-line system, I got a quote of $13,000.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Now you mentioned 5 megawatts. Is that somehow the average of what a household
That's going to
needs?
generate close to what my wife and I use each month in the house.
Okay.
It's probably going to be 90 to 95% of our total energy usage. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that way, it will close to completely offset our entire GRU bill each month.
I remember that I was interested in tax breaks at the time I was first looking into it. Do those still exist? And is it
That's
federal,
the amazing
state,
thing.
or?
There is a federal tax credit. Mm-hmm. And that is a credit, dollar for dollar, off your income taxes, federal income taxes at the end of the year. So I said I have a quote for a little over $13,000. The true cost to me is going to be $9,000.
Oh, okay.
Because $4,000 comes off right off the top. And that means I have a $9,000 system after those tax credits are applied.
Does the state have any incentives for solar?
Not at this time.
Okay. The Sunshine State has no sunshine incentives.
And you bring up a good point. This, Florida is not as far along as it could be. Mm-hmm. And it's getting better, and we have a lot of hopes, but it's the Sunshine State. It's not really the Sunshine State yet.
Well, we'll get there.
We're getting there. Amendment 4 last November was a great way to start because that did give some tax incentives to businesses. In essence, it allowed businesses to improve without being penalized, pay more taxes if they installed solar. So to that degree, there are some incentives out there for solar.
And I know what the county commission viewed as a very unfriendly ballot referendum did not pass. That was a good thing. From what I
Indeed, that was Amendment 1. That was a solar utilities amendment. It sought to prevent any competition in the solar field. Mm-hmm. It was an unfortunate reaction to a very good amendment which didn't progress. But we hope to see that original amendment in 2018.
Great. Well, let's talk about the solar cooperative. It's very exciting stuff. So tell us about the genesis of this.
We're very excited. The Florida League of Women Voters has as one of its missions to make Florida the Sunshine State, to promote alternative energies. Solar chiefly amongst those. Mm-hmm. The League of Women Voters, Florida, entered into a partnership with a nonprofit community group, Community Power Network, and we have created a partnership called Florida Sun, Florida Solar United Neighborhoods. This cooperative effort works with local league chapters, and in some cases other partners, to go out into a community and say, we can do a solar cooperative here. And the way this cooperative works is that we get all these folks together and we say, hey, sign up and tell us what you'd like to see in your system. And then we put out a request, we the cooperative put out a request, and Florida Sun actually operates all this for us. They have a professional coordinator who's working with us, put out a solar request for solar contractors. In our case, we received a dozen bids. Mm-hmm. The bids come in, we review them. We chose one based on the criteria that our co-op members wanted to have. And then that bid becomes the basis for an agreement. Once that agreement's in place, every cooperative member will be contacted by our chosen solar contractor, and then you have that solar contractor come out, they take a look at the site, they give you a contract bid based on the agreement terms, and you can choose whether you want to go with it or not.
So you have an economy of scale kind of
You
thing
do.
happening here?
For lack of a better term, I like to call this the Sam's Club approach.
Mm-hmm.
Because the contractor is doing 20, 30, 40 or more installations at a time, they can do these at a discounted rate. It's economies of scale, as you say.
Now, you mentioned this nonprofit, so
Yeah.
what is it called again?
Community Powered Network.
Okay.
It is a nationwide group.
Uh-huh.
There are similar cooperative projects, partnerships throughout the country. I don't have the number right here in front of me, but I'd say 7 or 8 of them.
And I know you've in our email exchanges, I've noticed other people copied, like some folks in Orlando, I believe.
Yes.
So is it one nonprofit that's kind of providing this service to anyone who wants to go into this? Or?
Well, no, it's, in this case, this profit partners with state or local entities.
Okay.
So Community Power Network is actually partnering with the Florida League
Okay.
to set up a sub-entity.
The
called
Florida League of Women Voters.
Florida League of Women Voters,
Got
thank
you.
you. Yes.
Okay.
And then the Florida League says, okay, we're asking our local chapters if you would like to participate.
Mhm.
And the Alachua League of Women Voters chose to participate.
And where did this kick off in Florida? Where was the first cooperative?
The first cooperative was in Orange County.
Okay.
And that's why you see some of the CCs going to a woman down there, Mary DuBois. She was active with her local Unitarian church. They got it started there. They've done the first one, very successful. Deidre McNabb is another name you've seen in the email exchanges.
Mhm.
She is she's past president of the Florida League of Women Voters. And she is our solar coordinator, and she's a real spark plug. She's really going out there and getting things moving. We have right now active leagues in Alachua, Seminole, and Space Coast.
Mm-hmm.
We have completed cooperatives in Orange County, I believe Pinellas, a number of others. I don't have them here in front of me, but
Mm-hmm.
there's been a number of successful ones, and there are several that are ongoing, including several in Miami-Dade.
It seems like it's kind of a no-brainer to put together this kind of thing, bring the cost down, bring awareness. To the
It's an amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
Because what we have here now is the technology has been improving so much, the prices are coming down, and then here you have this effort where you can work with other people in your community, and you can say, together we can get a better deal for each of us. And not only do you have the price advantage, which can be up to 20% less
Mm-hmm.
on average than a standard bid, you have the assistance and advice of professional staff from Florida Sun.
Mm-hmm.
Angela DeMombrun out of Jacksonville is the statewide coordinator for Florida Sun, and she's been very helpful and is very knowledgeable about what it takes to install solar. I mean, I know probably when you were looking at installing solar, what should I be looking for? What are the questions? She comes in and she says, this is what you should be looking for. These are things you should consider.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a win-win-win. It's great for your wallet, it's great for the environment, and it's great for the community.
Now, this interview, we may be able to pull it out in the future and use it again, but for right now, you have a sign-up period to take part in this first round?
We do.
And what is the dedeline to begin with?
July 28th.
July 28th.
End of this month.
2017.
Yes.
Okay.
We need to make these cooperatives short terms, a certain limited amount of time, because the contractor has to know
Right.
what type of time frame of dealing with, how many bids they're going to, how many contracts they're going to have.
Right. They don't want to deal in just a huge hypothetical. They
Right.
want to know there's interest. And
A beginning and an end.
right.
So if we have interest, well, we need folks to get out there and sign up now and join this. And as you said, there's no reason not to.
Mm-hmm.
It's free and easy to join. Just go to the website,
Right.
which is flson.org.
And we'll put that graphically right on the
Fantastic.
interview here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Free to sign up. You look at the bid, and it's going to be much better than you ever expected.
Right.
You get the federal tax credit. You get some or all of your utility bills paid. It's a win-win-win.
Now, I know that this will be a helpful thing for
Yeah.
folks to view this interview, but I know you also have some public information sessions coming up. Can
We
you tell
do.
us about that?
We have two coming up, and one of them, unfortunately, is going to occur before this broadcast.
Right.
But it is tomorrow, July 11th, at the Graham Center at the University of Florida.
Mm-hmm.
I have several university faculty members who are league members who have been helping us set that up. Very excited about that.
Right.
And for the general public, July 19th
Mm-hmm.
at the Mel Hopper Library on Northwest 43rd Street
Excellent.
at 6:45 p.m.
About how long is the
It's
session?
going to be about an hour presentation,
Okay.
probably a half hour after that in question and answer.
So, Wes, you mentioned the process, the RFP that you went through to decide on the contractor that would give folks the best price. Tell us about the process, about what the criteria was, what was important to the Alachua County League of Women Voters Cooperative. Tell us about that.
Certainly. It's a great partnership in that the Florida League and its local chapters go out and promote this cooperative because it's such a great idea. But then Florida Sun steps up and leads the process for each cooperative. In our case, we send out requests for proposals statewide, we being Florida Sun doing this for us, with an extensive set of criteria. We received a dozen proposals back from all across the state.
Mm-hmm.
Pensacola down to, I want to say, somewhere north of Miami.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a selection, go ahead.
Well, was it just about price? And I'm sorry, I think I interrupted you
No.
talking about the selection committee.
Yeah, the selection committee, our committee met for well over 3 hours reviewing these, and our three big criteria were the quality of the equipment first, local experience and background, having some idea of who is in the area and availability in the future to service, and price. Obviously, price is going to be the big three. And there were multiple other criteria that went through, and I have to give kudos to Florida Sun because they have a very thorough process, thorough vetting process. But there was roughly a dozen selection committee members who sat in a meeting room at the library, and we went through every single bid very thoroughly and just kept prioritizing, and certain ones would move up and certain ones would move down. At the end of the evening, after a lot of discussion, we were very happy to come up with a contractor that everybody was very excited about. That's a local Alachua County-based power production management. So they had a great submittal. They have a wonderful base system you can choose from, very good equipment. And if you want to upgrade, you can get the higher grade system. 2 options. It was really an impressive bid, and they had a really competitive price. Very excited to have them on board.
I'm so glad it's an Alachua County vendor.
It's just amazing it worked out that way, but it's, again, one of the criteria was local experience, local ability
Sure.
to serve. So we're happy to have them here and be working with them. I myself chose a system, and I talked about earlier how price is going down. I looked at a system a few years ago, and back then for what I was looking for, the prices ranged between $16,000 and $19,000. As I mentioned, now I'm getting the upgraded system for $13,000.
Well, and I guess I would assume that one of the advantages to it being a local vendor is they're much more accessible than if it had been someone in Key West who was chosen.
Now,
So
that doesn't mean you can't have out-of-towners, and in some co-ops they do, but it just so happened that this contractor had everything we were looking for.
So obviously the RFP can't take into consideration what an individual homeowner, how they might want to customize their installation. So take me through the kind of steps with actually working with the vendor. What do you do once the vendor is selected, you're part of the cooperative? How does this proceed?
You sign up for the cooperative through the website, flsun.org, and Florida Sun personnel will review your site initially, aerial, Google Maps.
Oh.
And in some cases, it's a wonderful thing that our local community is has so many trees, has such an urban ground cover, but a lot of our homes may not qualify because of the tree shading. We understand, that's fine.
Right.
And some applicants may not make it past that step, but once they do, those names and contact information are forwarded on to the contractor. The contractor then contacts each individual member and says, I'd like to come out and take a look at your site. Let's do an assessment. For example, at my house. The contractor personnel came out, the person came out, and looked around the site, got up on the roof, measured. I had prepared in advance, and they will ask you to do this, a listing of how much electricity we have been using over the last year.
Oh, okay.
I actually did it over 3 years.
Uh-huh.
They take that, they take the measurements of your house and the sun angle and all that, and then they come up with what they think is going to be a good system for you. Now, in my case, they said 18 panels, which had covered everything and then some for our energy needs. I wanted to downsize it just a little bit, so I downsized it to 16. No problem.
What kind of savings was that?
I'm expecting that's going to cover 90 to 95%. I'm going to save about $100 a month.
So why did you downsize?
Just a little bit. You kind of want to go for that sweet spot where you're getting just under your total usage.
Mm-hmm.
If you generate more than you use, it's not a bad thing. You just don't get as much back for it.
Right.
You do get paid for it. And this is a good time to explain how this whole process works, and what makes it work is net metering.
Mm-hmm.
And net metering is the utility's agreement to buy back, in essence, your power.
Mm-hmm.
So if you generate exactly as much power as you use, then it's a 0-0 sum game.
What are the chances of that, though?
Yeah. So I'm coming in just a little under.
Uh-huh.
But net metering is a statewide program. All Florida public utilities have it, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a way that makes these systems work. The utility is buying the power back from you.
That's a guarantee.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's Florida law.
Right.
And it gives me a little bit of room. I want to continue increasing the energy efficiency of my home over time. So I can do that coming in just under.
Mm-hmm.
And if I want to in the future, say, no, I want those 2 extra panels. It's easy to add them.
Mm-hmm.
So,
So you've got the installation done.
no, in process now.
Oh, okay. But once it's done,
Yes.
you may be with GRU, Clay Electric,
Whichever you-
FPL,
yes.
whoever you're with.
Yes.
Do you call them and say, I'm flipping the switch? Or what is the interaction with the utility company like?
That's a great question. Once you sign up and you have the site assessment we've talked about,
Mm-hmm.
the contractor gives you a proposed contract. You like it, you sign it. The contractor takes the lead
Okay.
and makes sure that all the proper paperwork is filled out and submit it. There's going to be a notice of commencement to the local governing authority that you're going to be having construction at your house. There's a interconnection agreement with your local utility provider
Mm-hmm.
that you're going to be doing this, and you agree to meet certain standards.
Mm-hmm.
But the contractor takes the lead on all of those things.
I assume there's permitting and
Yes.
inspections and all
Yes.
of those.
Again, the
things.
contractor is taking care of all of that.
Okay.
So
Okay.
once you sign off, and from there, they take the ball. With this particular contractor, we have a payment schedule.
Mm-hmm.
You pay 25% up front, and then as you go through, you make payments.
Gotcha.
I'm just, I keep saying the word excited, but it really is exciting that I'm paying a little over $9,000 for a system.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have it paid off in 8 years.
Wow.
8 years.
Back when I looked, I think it was about a 20-year payoff.
2 years ago, I looked at it, it was 12 to 15 years. So.
Uh-huh.
And once that's paid off, these systems are good for 25 to 30 years.
Uh-huh.
That's, I mean, take a look at any investment you have now
Mm-hmm.
and figure out the rate of return. Earning $1,200 on a $9,000 investment, $1,200 each year.
Right.
Tell me any other investment you can make that could do that.
So
It's-
what are you going to do with all that extra dough?
Oh, I don't
Boat?
know. Go to someplace else where it's even more sunny. I don't know. But it's just exciting because it's a great way to save money.
Yeah.
It's also a good way to feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of your political stance or philosophy, we do have a problem with global climate change now. And you kind of, you want to throw your hands up at times and say, what can I do? It's just overwhelming. It's a global challenge. But this is a act local to a global issue.
Right.
Here's something you can do. You can actually reduce reliance on fossil fuels, which is good for the environment, it's good for energy independence,
Mm-hmm.
good for the community, and best of all, you're saving money the entire time you're doing it.
Right, right.
It's an amazing thing.
You know, something that the county has been involved in recently is the PACE program. And, you know, some folks may be thinking, I'd like to do this, but I can't afford it.
Yeah.
You know, there are, I guess, a number of different ways to finance. You could do a home equity loan. You could just have the money and do it.
Yeah.
But are you a PACE person? Do you know about that process?
I know about that process. I'm not doing it myself right now, but
Okay.
it is a great program.
Mm-hmm.
PACE allows you to take out a loan through a private lender that is paid back through your property taxes. It's a guaranteed payback, so you're going to get good terms,
Mm-hmm.
great interest terms. It's a great program, and it's not a separate payment. As you pay your property taxes each year, it's included as part of it. There's no separate checks to write, no separate loans.
Right.
The county collects it for you. And it's a great way to afford it. I'm glad you brought that up because that's just, it's a program where somebody can say, you know, I don't have the money, I can't afford it now, this is a way you do it.
Sean McClendon on our staff has been the person who's kind of been the liaison with the PACE process in the county. So we'll put his contact number up on the screen too if folks want to know more about PACE.
I want to give a shout out to Sean now because when I first started collecting information on who is doing what in this community, I went to one of Sean's PACE meetings.
Mm-hmm.
He has been invaluable assistance to me throughout this entire process. And to take that one step further, I'd really like to thank Commissioner Cornell, Chair Cornell,
Mm-hmm.
for making this interview possible and for the County Commission's support.
Mm-hmm.
For all the commissioners saying, yes, this is something the county should be doing, for having Sean's position there, and even down to individual participation. Commissioner Hutchinson came in and spoke at a press conference for us. So
Mm-hmm.
This partnership wouldn't be possible if it weren't for the success of this partnership would not be possible without our local partners. Alachua County has really stepped up. We really appreciate it. Sierra Club has been great. Unitarian Universalist Church. Swamphead Brewery, which is a solar-powered brewery,
Mm-hmm.
has been great. We had our press conference there. Y Green, who is a PACE funder,
Mm-hmm.
has been a partner.
Mm-hmm.
We have a steering committee which has been assisting us and giving us advice and part of the outreach, and these partners have been part of the outreach.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not me just saying, hey, I'm sitting behind a computer sending out emails. It's been all these individuals
Right.
through their entities
Mm-hmm.
reaching out to those they know saying, hey, this is a good idea.
Mm-hmm.
So the local league really appreciates all those partners and what they're doing to assist us.
It's what it takes for something
Yeah.
to be effective. So I think we've covered most of the points about the program. Can I pick your brain a little bit on
Sure,
other?
I was probably talking too quickly, but
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
So I've been hearing a lot lately about Tesla and their new roof panels and the idea of shingles that were also
Yeah.
mini solar panels has always intrigued me. Are you familiar with
I
those
am,
products?
and it's fascinating, and it is, I think, going to be the wave of the future. But it's not quite there yet. It's in limited markets, and the economics aren't there yet.
Mm-hmm.
Much like a Tesla.
Right.
One day I want to own a Tesla car.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to happen anytime soon because
Right.
I can't quite afford it now.
Right.
But one day I will. And I
Mhm.
think that's what it's going to be with the Tesla panels. One day they'll be affordable on a mass production basis.
I have the same fantasy. I will have Tesla shingles, a couple of big
Yeah.
Tesla batteries in my garage,
The wall
powering
power.
my car. Yeah.
Same thing with those. That's a great idea. And it does double duty in Florida. When those things become economical enough, where they make sense, where the return on them makes sense, and you have a completely energy independent house,
Mm-hmm.
that's the holy grail.
Right.
Particularly in a state that's prone to hurricanes.
Right.
And
Yeah.
just having that ability to be able to store the energy on site.
Mm-hmm.
Tesla is really is on the cutting edge of that technology.
And I guess, did you look into battery backup at all when you were considering your system? Or
We're not, and we, the cooperatives in general, are not doing battery backup now.
okay.
For that reason. It's a great idea in theory, and it does work, but it's not really economically practical
Right.
yet.
Right.
But it will be in the future.
Yeah.
So, and that's a good segue to set up on people saying, well, why should I why should I sign up now? If I wait for a year to put solar in, it might be even cheaper.
Right.
There are a lot of might be's.
Sure.
That federal tax credit's going away. After 2019, it's not going to be. It's going to be reduced down and down and down. And you might not have this cooperative here again in the future. Hey, we've got it now. If we have enough applicants by July 28th and things are going well, maybe we'll have one in the future. Maybe we won't. It's a lot of work. And we have to have people signing up to make it worthwhile.
Are you, let's say I sign up for the cooperative by
Yes.
July 28th. I then have the accessibility, or I have access to the contractor and the discounts that you've spoken about.
If you sign up, yes.
Do I have an obligation to move forward?
Nope.
Okay. Well, that's an important point.
It's
that
a very important point.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people would say, I'm afraid if I sign up and then I decide I just can't afford it. You don't have to.
You're not signing a sales contract by signing up to the cooperative.
You're signing up to be considered for a system to be placed. And if you qualify and if you're comfortable with the individual contract, then you have the right, but not the obligation.
And I assume the vendor is, making this commitment for a finite period of time.
Yes.
What is that?
Well, I mean, they'll service anybody who is signed up by July 28th and has an eligible site. Those are the criteria.
So even if it's a year later, they'll still honor
Well,
that?
I'm sure they're going to have, I don't know, but there's going to be a cutoff date. When they give you a contract proposal,
Okay.
it's probably going to be you have to sign this within so many days, 30
Gotcha,
days or
gotcha.
whatever. I don't know what that is, but
So
that would
you-
be reasonable.
So you're not obligated,
Right.
but if you want to take full advantage of it,
You
there
have
may
to
be
act within a certain amount of
with
time.
a certain amount of
yes.
time.
Sign up by July 28th, and then there's going to be response time in the individual contract.
I've got a very wooded lot that I live on.
Yeah.
Now, do you sign up and then you get an assessment done on whether you're eligible
Yes.
for? Okay, you don't do that before the sign.
No, and that's how you sign up first, and that's how they know
Uh-huh,
that they need to assess your house.
gotcha,
They, Florida Sun,
yeah.
remotely. And with shading, do you have any parts of your yard that aren't shaded, that are sunny?
Sure, we could do non-roof panels.
Exactly.
somewhere. Yeah,
There are, and we do have some co-op members who are doing that. They're going to be installing a ground system because there's too much shade around their house. So you can do that. It's a little bit more expensive, but it's still doable, and that's part of the contract, part of the agreement we have.
well, I feel like we could go another 28 minutes, but we're out of time.
Oh,
Thank you
man.
so much
Thank you,
for
Mark. I
coming.
appreciate your time.
So I've come up with a family emergency plan.
Great. What is it?
It's difficult to talk about, so I'm not telling you.
How will we know what to do?
You won't.
I'm so glad I won't have to remember anything.
And me too. Thanks for this, sweetie.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.